Hello everyone, Dark of all Trades here. Now today, I'm going to humble myself, or something like that. Now I am the first person to tell you that I don't know everything. Some people may disagree, but I struggled with accepting my level of intelligence, and contrary to what some may believe, it was because I thought I was slightly below average. It literally took multiple head doctors to show me my test results until I could accept the reality of it. Anyway, thanks for listening to that part of my life. But enough about me, let's get into the video. Today's video is a short from a channel called Family Policy Alliance. Oh boy, they look like fun. The video is titled, Atheists Can't Be Humble? Here's an explanation why. Well, I don't know about that, but maybe this guy has some good points. I'm always up for improving myself as a person, so let's take a look at why atheists can't be humble.
Only heaven silent for an answer.
This man perfectly explains why atheists can't be humble.
You will never encounter a humble atheist, because there's an inverse correlation between what we think about God and what we think about ourselves.
Now let me examine this claim about the supposed impossibility of finding humble atheists. This is a perfect example of a fallacy called hasty generalization, that is making a sweeping statement about an entire group without sufficient evidence. Imagine if I said, you'll never find a humble chef because cooking skill and ego are inversely correlated. You'd probably immediately think of some humble chefs you know, and some arrogant ones too. Now I'm pretty sure this is a guy named Joseph Backholm, so I'll try to refer to him by his name. Here, Joe uses the term inverse correlation, which sounds scientific, but requires actual data to be meaningful. In scientific research, correlation means a measurable relationship between two variables. But where's the data? Where are the peer-reviewed studies measuring humility levels across different belief systems? They don't really exist as far as I can tell, because this is an assertion based on personal bias rather than evidence. We can easily disprove this claim with real-world examples. Carl Sagan, despite being an atheist, frequently emphasized humanity's cosmic insignificance, famously describing Earth as a pale blue dot in the vastness of space.
It has been said that astronomy is a humbling and character-building experience.
Jane Goodall, an agnostic, has spent decades humbly learning from and advocating for other species. Meanwhile, history gives us countless examples of religious figures who've displayed remarkable arrogance, from medieval popes living in luxury while preaching poverty, to modern prosperity gospel preachers claiming divine right to private jets and massive wealth. True humility isn't about believing or not believing in a deity. It's about recognizing our limitations, being open to new evidence, and acknowledging that we might be wrong. Scientists, many of whom are atheists, exemplify this by constantly subjecting their ideas to peer review and being willing to change their views based on new evidence. That's actually a profound form of humility, one based not on submission to authority, but on an honest recognition of human fallibility and the complexity of our world.
If we think very little of God or nothing of God because we deny he exists, then necessarily that makes us the supreme power, the supreme authority, the source of truth for ourselves.
Now, this is quite the logical leap that deserves some careful examination. Here, Joe suggests that if we don't believe in God, we must therefore appoint ourselves as the supreme power. This is what we call a false dichotomy, the assumption that only two possibilities exist when there are actually many more. But let's have some fun with this. According to this logic, if I don't believe in unicorns as the supreme power of the universe, I must think I am. If I don't believe in the flying spaghetti monster, I must consider myself the cosmic chef of reality. If I don't believe in my neighbor Dave's claim that his cat is the supreme ruler of existence, well, you get the idea. But let's get more serious. This argument completely misunderstands how most atheists approach questions of truth and authority. We generally accept multiple sources of authority based on evidence and expertise. When I'm sick, I consider my doctor an authority on medical treatment. When my car breaks down, I consider my mechanic an authority on repairs. For understanding the cosmos, we look to physics and astronomy. For understanding life, we look to biology. None of these requires a supreme authority, just as understanding traffic doesn't require a supreme traffic director. The really interesting part is that many atheists actually embrace a profound humility about human knowledge. We accept that some questions might be unanswerable, that our understanding is always provisional, and that new evidence might change our views. We don't need a supreme power to make sense of the world, just as we don't need a supreme baker to enjoy a good cake or a supreme musician to appreciate a beautiful song. The universe might simply be more complex and interesting than a top-down authority structure would suggest. Perhaps there isn't a supreme power at all, and that's okay. It's like assuming that without a conductor, an orchestra can't make music. Yet, jazz bands create beautiful music through cooperation and mutual understanding rather than supreme authority.
If we accept that God is, as he described himself in Scripture, omnipotent, omniscient, all-knowing, all-loving, the source of truth, then compared to that, we are quite small, and that obligates us to a posture and a life of humility.
Let's examine this fun contradiction in theological arguments. Here, Joe suggests that accepting God's supreme nature automatically makes us humble, but this deserves deeper scrutiny. First, let's revisit Carl Sagan's profound perspective on human significance. In Pale Blue Dot, he describes Earth as a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam.
On the mote of dust, suspended in a sunbeam.
Emphasizing our cosmic insignificance. This atheistic viewpoint actually presents one of the most humbling perspectives possible. We're tiny beings on a tiny planet in an incomprehensibly vast universe. No divine importance is required. But here's where it gets really interesting. We've caught theological arguments in a wonderful contradiction. Many theists argue that without God, life has no ultimate purpose, that theists must live meaningless lives in a cold, uncaring universe. Yet now we're being told that not believing in God makes us think too highly of ourselves. These arguments can't both be true. Either atheists are depressed nihilists seeing no cosmic significance in human life, or we're arrogant beings appointing ourselves as supreme authorities. Pick one. This contradiction reveals something profound about how these arguments work. When trying to convert atheists, theists often emphasize the emptiness and meaninglessness of a godless existence. But when criticizing atheist character, suddenly we're portrayed as overconfident and self-important. It's like Schrodinger's atheist, simultaneously wallowing in meaninglessness and puffed up with cosmic importance until someone observes us. The reality is much simpler. Atheists, like many humans, can hold a balanced view. We can acknowledge our cosmic insignificance while still finding personal meaning. We can be humble before the vast mysteries of the universe while maintaining confidence in human reason and scientific discovery. This isn't contradictory. It's actually a more nuanced and mature worldview than insisting we need a cosmic authority figure to either grant us purpose or teach us humility.
Because we live in an awareness of how little we know compared to what there is to know. But if we diminish who God is, we necessarily elevate ourselves, and now we are in charge of ourselves. And again, that we see reflected all over the culture.
Let's unpack this claim about awareness of human limitations. Here, Joe suggests that believing in God somehow gives one a monopoly on recognizing how little we know. But this might be one of the most ironic arguments I've ever encountered in religious debate. Modern science, largely driven by agnostic and atheist thinkers, has revealed just how staggeringly vast our ignorance truly is. Every new discovery seems to open up 10 more questions. When we look through our most powerful telescopes, we find billions of galaxies, each containing billions of stars, stretching out farther than we can comprehend. When we look through our most powerful microscopes, we find layers upon layers of complexity that leave us with more questions than answers. The human brain, containing roughly 86 billion neurons, can't even fully understand itself. And that's just our tiny planet, one pale blue dot in an incomprehensibly vast cosmos. We've explored somewhere around 5% of our oceans. We're still discovering new species in our own backyard. And we're constantly revisiting our understanding of physics, biology, and chemistry. But here's the key difference. Atheists and scientists are comfortable saying, "We don't know, yet." We don't claim to have access to a being with all the answers who, for some reason, chooses not to share them. We don't pretend to have a cosmic hotline to ultimate truth. Instead, we embrace our ignorance as an invitation to explore, to question, and to investigate. And speaking of cosmic scale, in a universe without a god, the vast emptiness of space makes perfect sense. It's exactly what we'd expect from natural processes playing out over billions of years. But if you believe in a God who created everything specifically for human benefit, as many religions claim, then why create hundreds of billions of galaxies that we'll never visit? That's like building 1,000,000 empty mansions just to live in the closet of one of them. Talk about inefficient cosmic architecture. You know, for someone preaching about self-awareness, Joe here seems remarkably unaware of how other people think. It's actually quite telling. If you take two people who know exactly the same things about science, history, and the world, etc., but one is a theist and the other is an atheist, guess which one is claiming to know more? The theist is adding an extra layer of cosmic knowledge on top of everything else. They're not just claiming to know what we can observe and test, but also claiming knowledge of a supreme being, its nature, its wants, and its plans for the universe. And here's the real kicker about claiming absolute certainty through divine knowledge. When you think you already have all the answers, you stop asking questions. When you believe you have access to supreme truth, you stop searching for it. That's not humility, that's the opposite of humility. True humility means being comfortable enough to say, I don't know, let's find out together. And that's it for his video. So what is he saying here? Why can't atheists be humble? Well, according to him, you'll never find a humble atheist because not believing in God makes us arrogant. Not believing in God means we must think we're the supreme power. Believing in God automatically makes us humble because we're small in comparison. Only through God can we truly understand how little we know. But as we've seen, these arguments don't hold water. Atheists can and do recognize human limitations. Just look at how science constantly reminds us of our cosmic insignificance. We don't need a supreme being to understand we're not supreme ourselves. And ironically, claiming to have direct access to ultimate cosmic truth through religion might actually be less humble than admitting we're still figuring things out. Overall, I give this video a solid 8 facepalming Mr. Jesuses out of 10. He showed a fundamental misunderstanding of secular thinking. The argumentation appears designed to conform to existing biases rather than genuinely engage with or even attempt to understand atheist viewpoints. Joe imposes his religious presuppositions onto those who don't share them, making the entire argument circular and intellectually dishonest. So I initially put this at the beginning of the script, but I wanted to keep the intro short. So there is this idea that being humble is always considered a positive trait. However, excessive or misplaced humility can be detrimental in several contexts. I'll briefly touch on some examples to back up this point. Starting in a professional setting, this could be things like underselling skills during job interviews or accepting a lower compensation than what is deserved. Moving to the scientific world, things like refusing to defend valid research findings or giving equal weight to unsupported claims as supported claims. But more personally, what about not asserting boundaries or staying quiet about harassment or abuse? Lastly, in terms of social justice, things like remaining silent about discrimination and not challenging harmful beliefs or excessive deference to oppressive systems. The key is balance, maintaining intellectual humility while still having appropriate confidence and assertiveness when needed. That's it for this one. So now I've given my perspective, but what do you think? Does believing in a higher power automatically make someone more humble? Can recognizing our cosmic insignificance lead to humility without invoking religion? And most importantly, have you encountered examples that contradict this guy's claims? Either humble atheists or not so humble religious folks. I could be missing something here. Maybe there's an angle to this argument I haven't considered. Or perhaps you've had experiences that suggest otherwise. Let me know in the comments below. Though if you're humble enough to admit you learned something, hit that like button. And if you think supreme knowledge comes from subscribing to channels rather than deities, hit that subscribe button to expand your cosmic awareness. Speaking of cosmic, I need to give an extra cosmic thanks to my patrons, especially Calamitous Anima and Sora, as well as the other stars in my Patreonic cosmos. If you'd like to land among the stars and keep me grounded to Earth, you can join them for as low as $1 a month at patreon.com/darkofalltrades. And as always, keep learning.
So that's why my religion